There's a small habit many German Shepherd owners notice. At first, it seems insignificant, easy to ignore, almost forgettable, but over time, it starts to stand out. You notice it happens often, in quiet moments, in normal routines, without any obvious reason. And most people dismiss it. They think it's just a quirk, just personality, just something dogs do. But with German Shepherds, very little is random, especially repeated behavior. One of the most overlooked habits in this breed is this: watching, not reacting, not moving, just watching. Your dog sits or stands quietly. They observe, they track movement in the room. They follow small changes, they notice things before you do. And they don't always respond, they simply stay aware. To many owners, this looks like nothing. But it's not nothing. It's one of the clearest windows into how this breed thinks. German Shepherds are not passive animals. They are environment-focused. They are constantly reading patterns, movement, sound,
it's just me.
position,
Everything is fine.
energy.
Settle down.
They build a picture of what's happening around them, and they update that picture continuously. That quiet watching behavior is part of that system. It's not boredom. It's not idleness. It's processing. This breed was developed to monitor, to anticipate, to stay ahead of change, not just react to it. So when your dog watches you move from one room to another, they're not just looking, they're tracking.
What is wrong with you?
When they sit and observe a visitor instead of rushing forward, they're not being distant, they're evaluating. When they pause and scan the environment during a walk, they're not distracted, they're gathering information. The mistake many owners make is assuming that visible action equals engagement. But for German Shepherds, engagement often looks quiet, stillness with purpose, attention without movement. This is especially noticeable in calm environments. When
That's a
nothing
good boy.
obvious is
Just
happening,
relax. You're
your dog
safe now.
still watches, still listens, still tracks. Because their system doesn't turn off, it adapts. This habit becomes more visible as the dog matures. Puppies move more, react more, explore more physically. But as they grow, behavior becomes more efficient. Less movement, more observation. That shift is often misunderstood. Owners think the dog is becoming less engaged, less playful, less interested. But what's actually happening is refinement. The dog is becoming more selective, more precise, more controlled. Another reason this behavior gets ignored is because it doesn't create problems. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't disrupt routines. So it goes unnoticed. But the absence of disruption doesn't mean the absence of meaning. Quiet habits often carry the most information. Watching behavior can tell you how your dog feels about the environment. If the watching is calm and steady, it usually reflects stability. If it becomes intense and rigid, it may reflect uncertainty. If it increases suddenly, it may signal a change in the environment that the dog is trying to understand. The key is not the behavior itself, it's the pattern. Patterns reveal shifts.
Let's go.
And shifts reveal internal state. Another important detail is what happens after the watching. Does your dog relax? Do they disengage naturally? Do they return to rest? Or do they remain alert for long periods? Healthy behavior cycles between awareness and rest.
Look what you did to
If
the
a dog
carpet
cannot
again. I
disengage,
just had it cleaned
that's when you
yesterday.
start
Why do you
looking
keep doing
deeper.
this?
But watching alone is not a problem. It's a function. Trying to stop this behavior often creates confusion. Owners may call the dog away, interrupt the focus, try to redirect constantly, but constant interruption teaches the dog that awareness is unwanted. That creates internal conflict. The dog feels the need to monitor, but learns that monitoring leads to correction. That tension builds over time.
Leave it.
And tension doesn't
look at me.
disappear,
Let's go.
it shifts. Sometimes
Settle
into
now.
restlessness,
Easy.
sometimes into reactivity, sometimes into over-alertness. Allowing appropriate observation helps the dog regulate. It lets them complete the processing cycle. Observe, understand, disengage. That cycle is what keeps behavior stable. Another layer to this habit is connection. German Shepherds don't just watch the environment, they watch you. your movement, your posture, your routines. They learn patterns quickly, and they rely on those patterns. This is why small changes in your behavior can affect them more than you expect. A change in routine, a change in tone, a change in pace. They notice, even when you don't. That awareness is part of why this breed feels so connected to their owner. But it also means they are sensitive to inconsistency. The more predictable the environment, the easier it is for them to relax. The more unpredictable it becomes, the more they watch. Watching increases to compensate for uncertainty. That's not anxiety, that's adaptation. Understanding this changes how you respond. Instead of trying to reduce the behavior, you focus on the environment. You create clarity, consistency, predictability. When the environment makes sense, the dog doesn't need to monitor as intensely. They naturally settle. That's regulation, not suppression. There's also an important distinction between healthy observation and hypervigilance.
All right, sounds good. I'll see you
Healthy
later this
observation
afternoon.
is flexible.
Yeah, talk
The
soon.
dog can
Bye.
disengage. They can relax. They can shift focus easily. Hypervigilance is rigid. The dog stays locked in. They struggle to relax. They scan constantly without
easy
settling.
Now. Leave it.
That's when the behavior moves from normal to something that needs attention. But again, the behavior itself is not the issue. The inability to exit the behavior is. That's why context matters. Frequency, intensity, recovery. These are the things you observe, not just the action.
And then I told him.
German
"You
Shepherds are
absolutely
often
have to see this
described
place.
as
It is
intense.
incredible.
But intensity
the
is not a
colors
problem.
alone are worth the trip.
Unmanaged
Seriously.
intensity is.
Place.
When you
Good
understand
dog.
where that intensity comes from, it becomes easier to work with, not against. The goal is not to stop your dog from watching. The goal is to make sure they don't feel the need to watch constantly. And that comes from environment,
Who's a good
not
boy?
correction.
I missed you so
Most of the
much.
time, the smallest habits are the most revealing,
Hey,
because they show
Stop
what the
that
dog
right now.
does when
Come on,
nothing
leave
is
it.
forcing a
Settle
response. And that's where the real behavior lives. If your
It's all right,
German
go
Shepherd
sniff.
spends time
See?
quietly
Nothing to worry
observing,
about.
that's not something to fix. It's something to understand.
job.
Because once you understand it, everything else becomes easier to read. If this helped you see your dog differently, subscribe. The next video breaks down a moment when calm behavior actually signals something very different than what it looks like.